I'd just like to make the point that we're very fortunate that His Majesty has allowed us to use Buckingham Palace for this event.
Princess Anne did not raise her voice when she entered the private council chamber. She did something far more dangerous. She placed a sealed folder before King Charles, looked directly at Prince William, and revealed that Meghan had privately attempted to secure a prestigious royal patronage for Harry. The request had bypassed established channels, invoked the king's name, and demanded a decision before the palace could understand what was truly being proposed. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Anne kept one hand on the folder as silence tightened around the table. The Commonwealth Veterans Renewal Trust, a fictional royal-linked organization created to support former service members, carried more than charitable prestige. Its patron would gain ceremonial influence, public visibility, donor access, and the appearance of renewed palace approval. It was not simply a role. It was a bridge back toward the crown. Charles opened the first page and stopped. He removed his glasses, placed them beside the document, and stared at wording claiming he had already given his personal blessing. The king understood the wound beneath those words. His love for Harry had been turned into leverage, and the monarch felt pressure closing around him before anyone had asked for consent. William leaned forward as Anne explained how the proposal had arrived through an intermediary rather than through Harry himself. It included prepared announcement language, suggested photographs, a launch date, and a schedule designed to make the appointment look settled. The prince felt anger rising, but held it back. Every detail suggested speed. Every detail suggested calculation. Anne then revealed the timing. The application had arrived while William was abroad, Sophie was attending an overseas engagement, and the Palace Patronage Committee was operating with reduced staff. That committee, the group responsible for reviewing official royal charity appointments, had almost no time to challenge the request. The trusted confidant had been kept away. The future king had been excluded. Charles had been placed at the center. Then came the handwritten note. Anne read from a documented account attached to the file, specifying that the announcement should be released before formal approval. Public celebration would come first, permission would come later, refusal would then look cruel, calculated, and politically motivated. William noticed the second envelope beneath the application. Anne pushed it toward him, but Charles covered the seal with one hand. "No one opens this," the king said, "until everyone named inside is present." The request had shaken the room, but the hidden name would reveal that someone within the royal circle had already been drawn into Meghan's strategy. Behind the polished language of patronage, service, and reconciliation lay something painfully human. Harry wanted a role that proved he had not become irrelevant to the institution that shaped his entire life. Meghan wanted a victory that demonstrated the palace could no longer ignore them. Anne understood both desires, but she also recognized the danger. A royal patronage was not merely a charity position. It was legitimacy, access, symbolism, and a path back through a door that had been publicly closed. Harry carried the deepest wound because veterans' work had always connected his private identity to his public purpose. The proposed trust, an organization linked to the royal family and supported through official recognition, offered him more than a charitable role. It offered the authority of the monarchy beside the cause he respected most. He had served, sacrificed, and built much of his reputation around military communities. Without that connection, the Duke feared another part of his old life had been erased. Meghan saw the same opportunity through a different lens. She believed the appointment could restore their influence, weaken the hostility surrounding them, and prove that the palace still needed what they could offer. The Duchess did not describe it as a return made from desperation. She described it as justice. To her, the role would show that leaving royal duties had not destroyed their value. Harry listened, but unease moved beneath his silence. During a recorded private conversation saved by the intermediary, he admitted that independent charity work could not fully replace representing the crown beside his family. He missed the structure. He missed being needed. Yet when he asked whether Anne or William had been consulted, Meghan's voice sharpened. "This is not about asking them to accept us," she said. "It is about correcting what they took away." Harry stared at her. That answer did not calm him. It confirmed that the proposal had already moved beyond the harmless inquiry he believed Meghan was making. The truth arrived slowly, then all at once. Harry had understood that an advisor was quietly testing whether the palace might consider his name. He did not know draft press statements had already been written. He did not know Charles had been described as privately supportive. Most dangerously, he had never agreed to the language suggesting he was ready to resume formal duties. Meghan finally admitted that a former palace advisor had given private assurances through documented messages. The man claimed the king remained emotionally vulnerable where his younger son was concerned. He believed a public announcement would force Charles to choose reconciliation rather than humiliation. Harry asked for the phone. Meghan hesitated. That pause changed everything. He scrolled through the correspondence until his thumb stopped over one sentence. Harry is prepared to resume formal duties when summoned. The Duke looked up, hurt replacing confusion. Why did you tell them I agreed to this? Meghan had no quick answer, and Harry's shock soon led back to the royal ceremony where the entire plan had begun. The attempt did not begin with a secret letter or a late-night call. It began 6 weeks earlier at a Veterans Remembrance ceremony in Windsor, where Harry watched another royal receive the kind of welcome he once commanded. Applause filled the hall, medals flashed beneath the lights, and one empty chair beside the king became impossible for him to ignore. Meghan saw his expression change. In that moment, she decided the family could be made to reconsider. Harry had arrived privately at the invitation of several veterans who still respected his years of military service. The Windsor Veterans Covenant Ceremony, a formal event honoring former service members and their families, was supposed to celebrate duty rather than royal politics. Yet the gathering became something else when Prince Edward was announced as temporary sponsor of the Commonwealth Veterans Renewal Trust, after its former patron retired because of poor health. Edward stepped forward to accept the responsibility, and Harry remained seated away from the working royals. The Duke had no official role, no place beside Charles, and no invitation to represent the crown. Meghan watched him hold his expression steady while applause rose around the room. Then she noticed his hand tightening around the printed program until the paper bent sharply beneath his fingers. Harry said nothing until the ceremony ended. He waited until they were alone, then admitted that he could have transformed the trust into an international force. He spoke with sadness, not greed. Veterans had given him purpose when royal life became unbearable, and this role would have joined that cause to the authority he once carried. Meghan heard something different. She heard proof that the palace had pushed him aside. Meghan moved quickly after that. In a side corridor, she entered a private conversation with Malcolm Avery, a former communications advisor who had once worked near the royal household. Their exchange was later preserved in documented messages. Avery explained that Edward's position was only temporary, and that the permanent appointment remained open. Avery then offered the dangerous idea. Charles, he said, could influence the final decision if the request was framed as reconciliation rather than restoration. Harry should not appear to be demanding royal status. He should appear to be answering a humanitarian need that the king would find emotionally difficult to reject. Anne saw Avery leave the restricted corridor. The Princess Royal did not confront Meghan that evening, but suspicions settled immediately. She knew the former advisor held no current clearance and had no legitimate reason to be near a private royal gathering. That small detail stayed with her. As guests departed, Anne stopped beside Harry's empty chair. She found the damaged program and saw the deep crease across Edward's printed name. She folded it once, handed it to her private secretary, and ordered a record of everyone who had approached the Sussexes. By the time the sealed application arrived, Anne was no longer reviewing a charitable request. She was tracing a strategy born in that Windsor corridor, and the next step would force Meghan to answer for it face to face. Anne could have rejected the application through lawyers, secretaries, and carefully worded palace correspondence. Instead, she demanded a private meeting with Meghan. No aides, no recording devices, no prepared statements. When Meghan entered the small Windsor sitting room, the Princess Royal was already waiting beside the fireplace with the disputed folder in her hands. She did not offer tea. She did not invite her to sit. Anne asked one question. Why was the king's consent used before he had given it? Meghan held her ground. She had arrived expecting changes to the patronage proposal, not an interrogation. The appointment involved the Commonwealth Veterans Renewal Trust, a royal-linked charity role that would give Harry public authority, ceremonial standing, and a renewed connection to palace service. She began explaining his military record, his international reach, and the donations his name could attract. Anne stopped her before the argument could gather force. She opened the folder and read the sentence claiming Charles had privately welcomed the plan. The princess then asked why those words remained in the final version if no approval had ever been given. Meghan answered that Malcolm Avery had described the king as receptive. She insisted the language reflected his understanding, not a deliberate attempt to deceive. Anne did not move. She knew Avery had no current position inside the royal household, and no power to speak for the monarch. The documented correspondence in her hand showed more than confusion. It showed that favorable stories were meant to appear before the Palace Patronage Committee met. That committee, the group responsible for examining official charity appointments, would then face public pressure before it could judge the proposal fairly. Meghan's composure finally cracked when Anne said Harry had been used as an emotional shield. The Duchess accused her of protecting royal influence more fiercely than family reconciliation. And she said the palace had repeatedly praised service, while denying the Duke any meaningful way to serve. Anne answered with cold precision. Reconciliation could not begin with borrowed authority. She then revealed, through saved messages between Meghan and Avery, that the former advisor had encouraged headlines describing the appointment as imminent. Once the public believed Harry was returning, refusal would look like punishment. Meghan reached for the folder. Anne kept one hand firmly over it. Then the door opened. Harry entered without warning and heard Anne say that declarations carrying his name had never been signed by him. The Duke asked to see the approval page. He read it once, then again, searching for an explanation that did not exist. Meghan began to speak, but Harry set the paper down and moved his chair several inches away from her. That small movement said what he could not yet admit aloud, and it shifted the final decision toward Charles, the one man everyone had tried to influence. Every argument eventually reached the same desk. Charles alone possessed the authority to approve the patronage, but his power was complicated by grief, guilt, and a father's instinct to protect his son. William wanted the request rejected immediately. Anne wanted the process investigated. Harry wanted his own intentions separated from what had been done in his name. The king listened to them all, knowing that one signature could offer reconciliation or reward a campaign built on pressure. Charles read the recommendation in silence. The Palace Patronage Committee, the group that reviews who may officially represent royal-linked charities, could advise him, but it could not make the final decision. The Trust's royal charter, the governing document that set its rules and powers, placed that authority in the monarch's hands. His signature would turn Harry's proposal from a private request into official royal service. William spoke first. The prince warned that approval would create a dangerous precedent. Anyone with enough influence could announce royal support before receiving it, stir public emotion, and then force the palace to choose between surrender and scandal. The future king did not question Harry's devotion to veterans. He questioned the method used to bring his name back toward the crown. Charles lowered his eyes to his son's service record. The king remembered the pride he had felt when Harry returned from active duty, carrying experiences that had changed him forever. That memory made the decision harder. He believed the Duke's commitment was real, and he feared that rejecting the role would deepen a wound already years old. Anne saw the conflict in her brother's face. She told him compassion could not require the monarchy to reward pressure. The princess softened when Charles gripped the page, but her warning remained firm. Saving Harry from embarrassment today could make him easier to exploit tomorrow. Then the evidence became darker. A documented review of Malcolm Avery's messages showed that he had promised potential donors privileged access to royal events if the appointment succeeded. The proposal was no longer only about service or reconciliation. It carried fundraising expectations the palace had never approved and benefits the trust had no right to offer. Sophie brought the final confirmation. The trusted confidant had discovered that trustees were told an announcement would come within 48 hours. Invitations had already been drafted, and a venue had been reserved under language suggesting royal approval. Charles reached for his fountain pen. William watched the nib touch the paper. Anne remained beside the desk. Harry stared at his father's hand, unable to tell whether the sentence would restore him or close the door completely. The king finished writing, capped the pen, and folded the decision beneath the royal seal. His ruling would stop the announcement, but it could not stop the consequences from reaching the family within minutes. Charles did not approve the patronage. He suspended the entire appointment process, removed Malcolm Avery from every royal-linked advisory network, and ordered the trust to begin again under independent supervision. The decision protected the crown, but it devastated Harry. He had not merely lost a position. He had discovered that his longing for purpose had been transformed into a weapon, one powerful enough to place his father, his wife, and his sister-in-law's family on opposing sides. Harry received the ruling alone in a guest room at Windsor. The governance review, a formal examination of how the trust was managed and whether its decisions had followed proper rules, meant no royal could accept the role until the investigation ended. Charles had written the order carefully, so the rejection would not appear personal. Even so, his son felt the full force of it. Harry read the letter twice. The Duke then placed it face down and sat without moving, trapped between humiliation and anger. He had been excluded from decisions carrying his own name, yet he also knew the palace could not ignore what had happened. His father had protected the institution. The pain came from knowing the king had needed protection from a campaign built around him. Meghan entered expecting fury directed at Anne and William. Instead, Harry asked why she had never told him that the announcement was already written. The Duchess said she had been trying to secure the future he deserved. He answered quietly that she should have trusted him with the truth. The consequences widened immediately. Charles ordered a private examination of every message sent in the crown's name, meaning any communication that falsely suggested official royal approval. The inquiry stripped Avery of access and cancelled every promise made to donors, organizers, and trustees. Sophie then uncovered the line that changed everything. In a documented draft, the appointment was described as the first stage of renewed official duties. The trusted confidant understood what those words meant. This was never meant to remain a single charity role. It was designed to open a larger battle over status, ceremony, access, and return. William discovered the final piece. A photographer had already been booked for the announcement, and the images were prepared for immediate worldwide release. The prince knew the palace would have had almost no time to deny that Harry had formally returned. Harry lifted the prepared statement from the folder. Meghan watched him tear it once down the center. He did not shout. He left both pieces on the table, walked out, and closed the door with deliberate calm. Then the Duke asked Anne for a private meeting. He told her there was one truth she had not heard. He had considered returning, but never under the terms written for him. For the first time, Harry was ready to say what he wanted before anyone else could speak in his name. There were no secretaries in the room when Harry finally sat opposite Anne. No royal crests on the table, no folders placed between them. The princess expected accusation, but the Duke offered confession. He admitted that part of him wanted the patronage, because it would prove he still mattered to the family. Yet he also admitted something Meghan had not understood and William had never heard. He did not want a permanent return to royal duty. He wanted dignity without surrender. Harry explained that he had discussed veterans' work with Meghan, but he had never authorized her to negotiate a formal royal appointment. The arrangement he imagined was an independent partnership with limited palace support, not a return to official service. That distinction mattered, because official royal duty meant representing the crown under its rules, while independent work would leave him responsible for his own choices. Anne listened without interrupting. She acknowledged that his military experience made him a credible voice for veterans, and that his commitment had never been the real problem. Her objection was the method. Consent had been manufactured, procedure had been bypassed, and Charles had been placed under emotional pressure before the truth could be tested. Harry lowered his voice. He admitted that watching Edward take the Windsor stage had filled him with jealousy and grief. The Duke hated himself for feeling envious, but the applause had reminded him of a life in which his purpose once seemed secure. He had not simply lost a title, he had lost the certainty that his service still belonged somewhere. Anne answered with unexpected tenderness. The princess told him that leaving the institution had not erased what he had done, but returning through a forced announcement would have damaged every future achievement. People would always ask whether he had earned the role or whether the palace had surrendered under pressure. Harry then revealed the truth through a documented message Avery had sent directly to him. The former advisor claimed Charles was prepared to offer a broader settlement, involving ceremonial appearances and renewed public duties. Harry rejected it because the offer demanded performance before trust. He would not stand beside the family for cameras, while the deeper wounds remained untouched. Anne finally disclosed her own hidden proposal. Before the scandal erupted, she had recommended an independent veterans initiative, led by Harry, without a royal title, palace funding, or any suggestion that he was resuming official duties. The work would stand on its own. Harry asked whether that path still existed. Anne said it did. but only if he publicly rejected the unauthorized campaign and accepted responsibility for rebuilding trust. Harry extended his hand. She waited, then accepted it. "You were right to expose the file," he said. Anne's expression softened. "Being right brought me no satisfaction." Their agreement offered a way forward, but before the palace could announce it, the leaked documents ignited a public storm outside the gates. By sunrise, the confrontation had escaped the palace. Broadcasters interrupted scheduled programs, newspaper editors rebuilt their front pages, and crowds gathered behind the barriers near Buckingham Palace. The dispute was no longer presented as a simple charity appointment. It became a national argument about loyalty, manipulation, forgiveness, and whether royal service could be reclaimed through public pressure. At the center of the frenzy stood Anne, praised by some as the crown's defender and condemned by others as Harry's unyielding gatekeeper. Harry watched the first reports in silence. A leaked copy of the draft announcement showed that his appointment had been written as though approval were already secured. The phrase, "renewed royal cooperation," drew the most attention because it suggested more than charity work. It implied a possible return to public duties, family ceremonies, and official standing beside the crown. Meghan reacted with fury. The Duchess believed Anne had turned a private strategy into a public trial of her motives, while the Duke felt something more painful. Commentators were asking whether he had knowingly helped pressure his own father. Harry wanted the truth separated from the deception, but every headline seemed to bind them together. Charles received the morning newspapers at breakfast. The king paused over a photograph of Harry leaving Windsor alone and instructed his staff to keep the palace statement restrained. He would defend royal procedure, but he would not allow the response to humiliate his son. The official statement confirmed that the appointment had been suspended because proper authorization had not been followed. It named neither Harry nor Meghan. Then one front page changed the mood completely. The fictional newspaper The London Chronicle published Anne holding the sealed folder beneath the headline, "The Princess Who Said No." Copies rose above the crowd outside Buckingham Palace, where supporters praised her resolve and critics accused her of closing the door on reconciliation. Anne saw the coverage but refused to celebrate. The princess understood that public victory could still deepen private pain. Her decision had protected the crown, yet it had also placed Harry's weakest moment before millions. During an evening broadcast, a veterans representative delivered the measured judgment that shifted the debate. He said Harry's service deserved respect, but no charity should become a battlefield for royal status. Outside the palace, a veteran wearing campaign medals folded the newspaper under his arm and told a reporter that service should unite families, not be used to force them. The clip spread within an hour. Harry finally acted. Minutes before the palace issued its final statement, the Duke sent Charles a handwritten message confirming that he had never approved the premature announcement and would not accept the disputed patronage. With that consent on the king's desk, the monarchy could now defend its boundaries without denying Harry's worth. The final decision did not restore Harry to royal duty, and it did not grant Meghan the victory she had sought. Yet it also did not end in exile, revenge, or another permanent family rupture. Charles rejected the disputed patronage, Anne cleared Harry of authorizing the false approval language, and Harry accepted responsibility for allowing others to pursue royal access without sufficient oversight. The crisis ended with a boundary firmly drawn and, for the first time in years, an honest path left open. Charles formally dissolved the original application. The Commonwealth Veterans Renewal Trust, the royal-linked charity at the center of the dispute, would now appoint a non-royal chair after an independent governance review. That review meant a complete examination of how decisions had been made and whether proper rules had been followed. No member of the family would receive the position. Harry received a different path. The palace confirmed that he could establish an independent international veterans initiative without royal branding, taxpayer-supported resources, ceremonial privilege, or any promise of restored official status. The Duke would have freedom, but he would also carry full responsibility for whatever came next. Harry signed a personal statement acknowledging that the proposal had advanced under his name without proper authorization. He did not attack Meghan publicly. Instead, he made one boundary unmistakable. No future commitment involving his identity could move forward without his direct approval. Meghan accepted the outcome with visible disappointment. During their final recorded private conversation about the crisis, Harry told her that love could not mean deciding what another person needed while denying them the right to speak. The Duchess heard the pain behind those words, and for once, she offered no immediate defense. Anne then presented the conclusion of her documented review to Charles and William. The princess confirmed that Malcolm Avery had acted without palace authority, exaggerated private conversations, and encouraged premature publicity. He was permanently barred from royal-linked advisory work. Charles met Harry before his departure. The king told his son that the crown could never reward coercion, but a father could still respect honest service. They did not embrace. They did not repair every wound. Yet they parted without hostility, and that mattered. Before leaving Windsor, Harry found Anne waiting near the entrance. He thanked her for stopping the appointment before it defined him. "Titles and patronages cannot restore purpose," she replied. "Only truth can do that." Harry nodded, entered the waiting car, and left the disputed folder behind. The patronage was denied, the hidden campaign was dismantled, and the crown's boundary survived, but Harry's greatest victory was finally reclaiming the right to speak for himself. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.